he receive any special money after he came back for his service? No, he just got what he was paid during the war.
That's right. Once that was finished, once your duty was over with, you did get paid.
Grandma, do you remember the atomic bomb being dropped?
What was that again?
Do you remember when the atomic bomb was dropped to end the war?
Oh, I remember that, yes.
Where were you? Or can you tell me what you remember about the atomic bomb?
I don't remember where I was at.
Do you remember people talking about it, or do you remember being scared at all about it?
Or do you remember? Yeah, what was your reaction to all those people being killed?
See, we didn't see the bomb people or anything.
You just heard about it.
I just heard about it, yes.
Okay. Grandma, do you remember when Roosevelt died?
Oh yes, he was down in Florida.
He was in Georgia, actually.
Or Georgia.
Yeah, he was in Warm Springs, Georgia when he died. And then, do you remember Truman taking over after him? Your coffee's heated up for you.
Oh, that's right.
Do you remember Truman taking over after Roosevelt?
Yes, and people were all upset thinking that he wouldn't be a good president, but he was one of the best.
Why do you think that people didn't like him at first?
Well, at one time he was just he used to make hats. What do they call those? Haberdashers.
Haberdashery?
Haberdashers, yeah, that's a hat. So when Truman started becoming president, and the war ended and the atomic bomb was dropped, do you remember what life was like after the war, directly after the war, once Grandpa got home?
Well, the homes were starting to build up. But I mean, before you couldn't find a place to rent. And after that, there was the housing boom.
When did you and Grandpa move into your house on
1950.
1950, you guys moved into that house?
Nobody lived in here.
Was it a new house? Was it a new build then?
It was new.
It was brand new when you guys moved in?
Yes, it was just when we moved into that house, it was an empty lot.
Oh, so you guys actually built the house on the lot?
Yes, so the house was built on that empty lot. And we had signed it, and at the time we had to take it as is. So that was it. So, oh no, we were the first ones.
Yeah, and did you see a lot of people moving into neighborhoods like that?
That's right. That was all for a wooded area at the time. All those homes. There were just a few homes there, and I used to fuss. I said, "I'm in the." Oh yes.
Grandma, do you remember when Grandpa bought his first car?
He always had a car.
He always had a car? When did he buy? So did he have the car when he met you? In 52? Or in 42, I mean?
In 42, he had a Chevy.
In 42, he had a Chevy?
I could show you pictures when he was still in Pennsylvania that the family had a car.
Very cute. She was just telling me about the first house. When Grandpa got back from the war, before you guys bought the house, was there any other big purchases you guys made? Or any new purchases?
Okay, wait a minute. Tell Molly where you lived. You lived, because after the war there wasn't housing and you didn't have much money, where did you live?
Well, we lived, Aunt Kath and Uncle George had a home on the west side. And it was a double home. But at that time, a lot of the homes were plastered Uh,
Oops. They were plastered what?
well, just like a house downstairs. There was gas there and there was electric up there.
But didn't you live in the attic?
That was the attic. That was the third floor.
You lived in the attic for 5 years?
Yes, until 1950.
Oh, so from when you guys got married in 42 till
Well,
1950, you guys lived
Well,
in the attic?
Well,
No.
no. I mean, well,
When Grandpa
After the
was
war.
when Grandpa was away, where were you living when he was away?
during the war, where did you live?
with the Grandma Palguda.
So she
So
lived
my
in a
great grandma.
Yes. So you lived with Grandma Palguda?
Mm-hmm.
In
Oh, that was after you got married.
That was after we were married.
after
Okay.
you were married, you lived with Grandma Palguda in,
Cleveland, in the west side of Cleveland.
and then
Grandma Palguda, Uncle John had a house, and Grandma Palguda lived with Uncle John, right? With half the house with Uncle John.
That's when they came to Cleveland.
Okay, so Uncle John and Aunt Agnes had part of the house. Grandma was the house, and you lived with Grandma also.
Well, that was a double home. That was a
Okay, so
separate-
John and Agnes were on one side, and you were on the other side with Grandma, and who else? Were you with Julia?
Well, Julia, when the war was on, Julia was married, so she went to
Oh, she was married. Okay,
she went to live with Johnny at the base there.
okay. So did anybody else live with you and Grandma Palguda?
For the longest time, just Grandma and I lived together.
Okay.
and then after the war, Grandpa came back and you guys lived with
We had to live. They said we couldn't find a place to live.
okay.
So they said, well, why don't you just convert that to a home?
The attic. So you had like an attic apartment.
Yeah. In fact, Father Margaret and two other priests came in and they were there at Aunt Catherine's for dinner, and they came upstairs. Well, they said, don't call this an attic, call it a penthouse. So that's what they called it, the penthouse.
Okay. So, but what was the bad thing about living in the penthouse?
Well, we had no bathroom. We had to use the one downstairs, which was Aunt Catherine and Uncle Joe were very gracious.
And then you also shortly had a new baby, and
Mary Ann.
you didn't want that baby what, crying?
And I would rock her and rock her and rock her. That's why Mary Ann knows all. She knew all her nursery rhymes before she was a year
So
old.
you'd rock her so she wouldn't cry, so you wouldn't wake the people, your Aunt Catherine and Uncle George, you wouldn't
Yeah.
wake them up.
That's right. Those were days.
But there was a shortage of housing, obviously,
Yeah.
because there was no building while the
There
war was
were
going
no,
on.
not
so.
until, that's the reason, 1950, when our house was built, we were glad to get into
Yeah.
a home.
Grandma,
It was very good.
Grandma, do you remember anything that was happening politically after the war? Like, do you remember Senator Joseph McCarthy, or do you remember any of the
McCarthy, when they were
the fears of communism?
They were saying he was a communist. There was a big let up about him.
So did you believe in communism in the United States? Did you believe that there was a big
No.
coup or conspiracy in the States here?
Well, they were afraid of Joe McCarthy. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, but do you
Oh,
believe
yeah.
that the people that he called communists really were communists?
No,
No.
I didn't think.
You weren't too scared about communists.
No.
Do you remember anything that was going? Do you remember the U.S. giving any aid to Europe after the war?
was there McHenry there?
There was a